Thank you. Good evening. My name is Alix Morehouse. I don't stand well, but we'll get to that in a moment. I've been unemployed for 2 years. For the first year, I had COBRA, which for myself and my son was $1,300 a month. My wife is employed at a job with no benefits, and so we have a catastrophic policy for her, for which we pay $300 a month, $360, somewhere in there. Unfortunately, she hasn't broken her leg yet, so thus far that money's wasted. When my COBRA ended last year, we were able to get my son on all kids. And when I'm done talking about myself, I'm going to give you a little information about him. I've had no insurance for the past year. I previously had a foot problem called Morton's neuroma. That was corrected, and it led to metatarsalgia, which is severe pain in the ball of your foot. Needless to say, that makes walking very difficult. To add to the foot problems, I developed diabetic neuropathy in my feet. Basically, for me, that's constant bee stings and burning in my toes and the balls of my feet. That got really out of control this year. And I no longer noticed the metatarsalgia, so there was a plus side. The health care that I currently receive comes from the Huntsville Free Clinic. They provide my metformin for my diabetes. They provide my testing supplies. They provide the pen needles for the pens that I use for insulin, and they help me apply for patient assistance to receive the insulin itself. They also supply me with Neurontin for my feet. We have finally found a dosage that works. We've got me up to 2,700 milligrams a day, and it has beaten back the bee stings. What that means is that the metatarsalgia is now very noticeable. So I'm still not walking well, because if I walk any distance or put much pressure on my feet, it's pretty much like somebody's hammering nails into the balls of my feet. So I'm in kind of a catch-22 position, because I haven't found a job. I can't accept any kind of job that requires standing. So, you know, I've had people say, why don't you go get a factory job, start somewhere. I can't stand. I can't work in retail. I can't work in fast food. I'm useless. Which is a pretty sucky feeling. I don't know what we're going to do when my unemployment runs out. I don't know how we're going to keep the house, much less worry about my health care. The last time I saw my podiatrist, he told me that I was headed towards surgery for the metatarsalgia. Well, I'm there now. And if I could get a job with insurance, I could get the surgery so my feet wouldn't hurt, so I could get a job with insurance. So I just don't know what to do from this point. I'm in a hole. I have my friends. I have my church. People who have held me up and held up my family. But I'm scared. I'm scared for my future. I mean, I'm 52. I'm a little young for, you know, Medicare and retirement and all that. Social Security is way out there in the future. And you know, friends tell me, apply for disability. Well, there's a problem with that. If I apply for disability, I'll lose my unemployment. Because obviously, if I'm applying for disability, I'm not hunting for work. And even if you get disability, you still got to wait 2 years to get health insurance. You get Medicaid 2 years after you get disability. So what do I do? I want to talk to you about mental health. And I fail to thank our representatives for coming to listen to us today. And as a NAMI board member, I'm very glad to see that NAMI is represented. I've learned through NAMI a lot of things, including that we call mental health patients consumers. I am both a consumer and a family member. And as I said, I'll talk about my son in a moment, if Pippa will allow me to. I'm prone to depression. I was diagnosed many years ago with major depression. Major depression is not situational. It's not the kind of, I've had a bad day, I'm down in the dumps, and people say, cheer up, tomorrow will be better. When times were good, and you need to understand this about depression, that's why I'm going here. When times are good, when I first got the job with great pay and exciting responsibilities and opportunities for travel, I was going to be teaching and doing everything I loved. A month into that job, I was suicidally depressed. It was like, what is the point of living? Because you're just going to die at the end of it. I was stuck in that black hole. I mean, life was wonderful. So you take the tendency to depression, and then you become unemployed. And then you have chronic pain. It's pretty damn well unbearable. There's no rest in diabetic neuropathy. It's even worse if you lie down. That adds to the depression. And I've pretty much been suicidally depressed for the last 2 years. I gotta say, I'm not a wuss either. I didn't plan on sitting in front of you and weeping. But I think you need to see this. We're not talking about statistics. We're talking about people's lives. And I don't know where to take mine from here. And there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. Again, through the patient assistance program, with help from the community free clinic, I do get my antidepressant for free. It's keeping me alive, which is probably a good thing, I guess. I no longer have access to therapy. And it's been suggested, again, go to mental health. Well, let me tell you what you get from mental health. You get 1 or maybe it's 2 sessions a month of group therapy. Needless to say, the therapeutic relationship is the most intimate relationship you can possibly be involved with somebody that you're paying money to. That requires a great deal of trust. And that's not going to happen in 5 minutes every 2 or 4 weeks at a group session. That's just not realistic. There's nothing there. There's no point in going at all. The people I know that go to the mental health clinic go to those group sessions because they're required in order to get their prescriptions. They're not any use to anybody. I have ADD, which is a joke considering the opinions I used to have about ADD. I was diagnosed because one day I made the mistake of asking my son, or my wife, why our then 6-year-old son pushed all my buttons so well. And she looked at me and said, because your ADD is as bad as his. Yeah, a psychiatrist agreed with her too. A few tests later and I was on ADD meds. I'm no longer on them because the free clinic doesn't handle that class of medications. I have seen a psychiatrist a couple times at the free clinic. I have talked with him. And basically, all he can do is prescribe my antidepressants. I made it clear to him that I do have a support system. I have friends. I have my friends at church. I think what's keeping me alive right now is there's this part of my brain that realizes I couldn't do that to my son. But I'm living in a place that's not easy. It's not fair to my son. It's not fair that he has to deal with a mama that's depressed. And it's not fair that he has to deal with a mama that can't go run around and play because my feet hurt. I'm sorry, son, I can't drive you to the playground. No, I can't walk up those stairs. Not today, son, mama's feet hurt. I get so sick of saying that to him. I'd like to thank you all for listening. And I'd like to tell you about my son Evan for a moment. As I said last year when we lost our Cobra, I put Heaven on all kids. We were able to get him on all kids. So that's good. It covers his mental health care. My son is diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and ADHD. So fortunately, we've got good therapists for him. He gets the medication and treatment he needs. We haven't had any problem with that. My son is also diagnosed with premature puberty. He started showing signs of puberty when he was 7 years old. When we noticed the furry armpits, we took him to the doctor, who agreed with us and sent us to the endocrinologist. And we have a wonderful pediatric endocrinologist, don't make me say that again, who's located in Birmingham. And he actually comes up and does office hours in Huntsville a couple times a month. So unless it's time for a surgery, we don't have to go to Birmingham. Surgery for what? They do a handy little implant in his upper arm. Goes right about there. And it's very similar in size and placement to a birth control implant, which is why my 10-year-old has been seeing a gynecologist for 3 years. He was due for his third implant in May. So in early April, we called the doctor's office in Birmingham and reminded them that that was coming up. And they submitted the paperwork and submitted the order to the pharmacy. And I will tell you that this one little implant, it cost $17,000. I will also point out the obvious that a typical child would have problems experiencing puberty at an early age. When you add in the emotional and social immaturity that comes with Asperger's syndrome, that's simply not something my son needs to deal with. So as I said, beginning of April, we sent in the paperwork, and we had an appointment last week. The day before the appointment, the doctor's office calls to cancel because they don't have the medication. And yeah, notice it is July, and I've had several conversations with the doctor's office in Acredo, the pharmacy, over the last few months, saying it's been ordered, it's ready to ship, we're waiting to hear from insurance. And I've called insurance and not got an answer. We got an answer last Thursday. They denied it. It's not in the formulary. So, and they asked what it was for. And I'm thinking, if you had a question, could you not have asked 2.5 months ago when we started this? Meanwhile, there's a couple of weeks leeway in the implant. You know, it's not like it has to be done on the exact same day or boom, he's growing up. there's not 2 months leeway. So right now he's got a pimply face, and if anybody can tell me any product that can handle teenage boys' sweat, I would appreciate it, because we're there. And he's the stinkiest 10-year-old on earth. And we're still waiting to see what insurance is going to do. Because he does not need to hit puberty at 10 years old. Well, that's my story and my son's story. And I can't miss this chance to thank Pippa Abston, for organizing this. You are one of the most Christ-like people I know. Thank you.